On today's show, is Luka Doncic in the best shape he's ever been coming into training camp? We'll talk about that and more things we need to know on Mavs Media Day right now.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't even help me.
And welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager, Locked On Podcast Network, where we let it ride for Media Day. Oh, I'm excited. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform. Leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, comment anything below. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And joining me, as always, my co-host, media member, the Media Day dude, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
We back, baby. It does feel like we say we back like 3 times every year. It's Media Day.
It's true. Well, you also came back to the show.
Very true.
We were back then.
We back then.
We back then.
We back for Media Day.
Correct.
First preseason game in the arena.
Yeah. Yep.
We back.
Yep.
Home opener.
We back. Playoffs. After the break.
We back. Finals. We back.
After the All-Star break.
we back.
We back.
After we back. Road trip. We back.
We're legitimately back though, because Mavs Media Day is Monday. If you're listening, watching this on Monday, and Isaac and I will be there interviewing whoever we get. We'll see who comes through our station, and we'll talk to them and ask them a bunch of questions. But today we want to get into things we want to learn at Media Day. So some questions we have going in and some stuff we want to talk about. But let's start here with some storylines, Isaac. And to me, I think the biggest storyline going into Mavs Media Day is kind of the storyline that goes into every Mavs Media Day.
I was going with.
Right? I think the number one, you could say it's Klay and his Klay coming into the Mavericks. You could say it's Mavs defending.
Omax changed his number to 8.
You could say, is it because of Kobe? Then you could say, no, the Mavs defending their Western Conference championship. Right? You could say that. Is it about that and the unfinished business of the Mavericks? To me, I think it's Luka and his shape and his conditioning and where he is. Because when we last saw Luka, you want to do the recap show? If you ever watched the beginning of the show, like when we last saw Agatha all along, we were here. Luka was on the injury report every single game in the playoffs. He did not look his best. He did not put his best foot forward in the playoffs because of it.
I thought you were going to mention the Dragic game, and I was like,
because of injury. You want to put that there? Like we also saw him in the Dragic game and didn't look super in shape. So that's the big question going into it. But we've heard from Mark Stein and some others that Luka is looking better. He's already been on the practice floor. He's been practicing with a Slovenian team. His father is the GM of a developmental team out there, and he's been practicing with them a bunch. He's not only just been doing workouts, but practice sessions. So he's kind of gotten a jump on training camp right now. And so I'm on Luka muscle watch, Isaac.
Muscle watch.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, is it bad that I'm just like kind of tired of talking about his conditioning? And
it's not bad for you, but it is a storyline.
It is a storyline. Yeah. It feels like he didn't stop playing basketball over the summer. So it just felt like we've seen him. I mean, yes, they missed, the Olympics and stuff. Imagine if he played in the Olympics, it really would have felt like Luka never had a break at all this offseason. But yeah, I mean, I think it's always, going to be a thing of like, hey, let's see what Luka looks like, coming into training camp, see what he looks like for Media Day. And I think for some people, it's like, all right, well, what are y'all really going to learn on Media Day? You learn, different things, but one of the takeaways every time is you see these players in person for the first time. We're standing next to these guys. We're dapping it up with these guys when they come to do an interview. So like you see their, one, you see what shape they're in. 2, you see kind of like their mindset and stuff right now heading into the season. There's so much stuff you see in person compared to some of these interviews you might do online, or if we interviewed somebody over Zoom. So Luka's always going to be one of those people where we're like, all right, let's see what he looks like coming into the season.
Yeah, and I think that this matters because we've been really high on this Mavericks team going into this season. We've said, and I'm going to hold on to this, this was the best Mavericks team around Luka that we've had.
Yep.
Going into this season. It's better than the end of last season, and I think going into this season, this is it. This is Luka's chance. We did the episode where we ranked all the players and ranked the best player on each team. This is Luka's chance to take number one this season, and so his shape and his conditioning and all that going into the season is important. I think, one, just because of the injury stuff from the end of last season. How is he feeling there? And hopefully he's back to 100%. But two, what shape is he going into? Because in years past, we've seen him come into camp and go, oh man, is he going to play himself into shape? Like, is he pulling a Shaq right now where he's got to play himself into shape for a couple months and then see where we are there? Like, we'll see.
Yeah. This kind of goes into my top thing I wrote down for thing I want to hear is what's the mindset post finals?
Yeah.
Like, what's the mindset for the team, not just Luka? Because I think there's a couple different routes that the team can take, right? Like you could take the approach of, hey, that's behind us. That chapter's closed.
Yeah.
We've shut that door, and this is a brand new season. It's like we're happy about that. We're proud of it, but this is brand new season. We're not thinking about that. Or you could take it and it's like, hey, we want to ride that momentum, right? We made it to the finals. We felt like we were right there. We want to like look at that and like ride that until throughout this season and get back to there. You can almost take it another route and saying, hey, it left such a sour taste in our mouth in the finals that we're pissed off going into the season. Like we're already so we're gelling so much, like just some of these scrimmage runs and all the stuff that like, hey, we're just mad because we lost the finals and we're not going to forget that going into the season. Like there's just so many different mindsets, and I know Luka's not the perfect soundbite sometime or the perfect quote, but do we get the?
What are you talking about?
Beer.
It's a great one.
Do we get the evergreen Luka answers to these questions about going to the season, coming off the finals and all of that? Or do we get a little different side of Luka? Like that would mean something to me if Luka says we were right there, man. I'm not going to forget that. Like, I want to get back to that feeling. Like, and like you see a little bit more, like, I don't know. So we'll probably get the evergreen Luka, and it's fine. That's his personality. It's nothing wrong with that. I'm fascinated by it.
And it'll be interesting to hear how the new players, so the Najee Marshall, the Quentin Grimes, even like a Klay Thompson, how they respond to how everybody else that were in the finals are now. Like, I think we may learn more about everybody else's motivations from those guys. What's the vibe around the team now? Klay, you've been to, NBA championship. You've won titles. What's the, how are they responding to losing a finals in a way that maybe your Warriors teams in the past have responded to losing titles?
Quentin, you were in Detroit last year. So how does...
I've been trying to. We've been writing all of our questions for players, and I really wanted to ask him, like, what is it like to be on a 14-win team? Because he wasn't there that long, and he only played like 6 games. But I really want to know like what it was like. Maybe that's an offline question.
Probably, yeah, probably.
But yeah, one of my big storylines I think is the Mavs, finals revenge. How players' reactions to the run, and what is it? Like you said, you laid out the different paths they could take, and I do kind of hope that it is sort of the revenge thing, that they want to be motivated from that, and it's not just, hey, we're on top now, hey, we made it, we expect to be back again. No, I hope it's like we're hungry, we got to earn it back again, right? Nothing is given to us at this point. Because
you see, he was on the cover of 2K, guys.
Because it did kind of feel like in 2023 when we did these media day interviews that they're coming off of the 2022 Western Conference Finals run, and we heard a lot about how the map, like, we have a target on our back now, and you're like, oh, did we earn that? As a team, like, did you guys earn that? And so that was sort of the mentality they had then, and then obviously it all fell apart that season for various reasons. But yeah, it was a different mentality than that. Hey, we want revenge, like there's unfinished business kind of deal.
I'm not gonna act like I remember what those conversations were, because I don't too much. I just know we lost Brunson right after that, and it's tough.
That was a very tough one for sure. But coming up, let's talk about the other thing that's going to be a big storyline is Klay Thompson What questions will be asked? What could we learn potentially about Klay Thompson, and what do we want to know? And then some other things we want to know going into media day. Talk about that coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more. Where you place your bets, you can go and check out, see all the different stuff they have for the NFL. They have weekly specials. They have parlays, the odds for the Super Bowl. Chiefs plus 550. San Francisco 49ers plus 650. The Bills plus 650. Recording this before that game, so we'll see if that changes. Your Baltimore Ravens, Isaac, plus 1,300. Looking about that. Go check out and see everything they have available, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet on FanDuel. You don't even have to win. Just place a $5 bet on FanDuel. Again, go to FanDuel.com, see what's available, and go to that site for more than just odds. FanDuel.com.
My first shot, my first play.
Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. We will be here at Media Day and do as many interviews as we can with players. And so subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe and follow on podcasts. If you're listening to the show or if you're watching on YouTube, you'll have every single interview in some form or fashion on your feed from whatever we do on Media Day. And so, the Mavs always post the regular interviews from everybody, the pressers on their YouTube channel. So if you're asking, a bunch of people ask us, like, where can we stream it? You wouldn't want to stream it. you want to watch the YouTube videos after the fact, promise me. So we just sit there in silence for a long time, waiting between these guys. But yeah, all of our stuff will be wherever you're listening, watching this. Subscribe, follow us on Instagram at Locked On Mavs, and on Twitter as well at Locked On Mavs. All right, Isaac. Klay Thompson's integration, I feel like it's going to be a big storyline through Media Day. What do you think is the question that gets asked the most about Klay Thompson?
I mean, I think he's asked. I think he's asked a lot about just like the type of player he is now, post injury, and this would be one of my questions for him, or would be of. But I think other people's going to ask it is like, hey, how are you a different player post injury? How do you feel different? How do you feel out there on the court? Are you a different player post injury? And see what he says with that. For me, since that's probably going to like dominate the stuff for him, I think what I'm really curious on, and this would be my one question for Klay, would be, how do you see your role on this team? Because of all the people, I want to hear from him how he sees that. Was the conversations with him, will he just straight up say, I mean, I see myself playing with Kyrie and Luka as much as possible. I've been a starter in this league for so many years. I can't wait to do that again. And kind of be out there like that. Does he see himself as like a supporting cast member? I'll be curious on how he like would word that. So that's like my number one Klay thing, but I think the injury stuff is going to be the number one thing I ask about.
Yeah, the part about how he views himself, we sort of heard some of that at his introductory press conference. He talked about, wanting to fit in, and he talked about how he did some research before he had the meeting with Nico and Michael Finley, the GM and the assistant GM of the Mavericks, and talking about how he saw himself and how he thought he could help the team. And so he's obviously thought about that stuff, right? And so I guess some of it would be, how has that changed since the introductory press conference where he said, I could see myself coming in here he did talk about being a role player. He talked about how he pointed at Najee Marshall and Quentin Grimes and like, hey, the defense, I'm leaving that big role on defense for these guys. I'm glad I don't have to carry as much of a load anymore. And I was like, ooh, I don't know about that, Klay. Like, I think you may have to do that this season. At least
Nick
some.
is over there like, Doug McDermott.
That's a joke for everydayers. And so, I think that his role is very interesting and how he views it. But we know that kid has done really well in the last couple of years with finding guys and figuring out what their role is, and then like very clearly like putting them into their roles, or at least the team has aligned that way.
What if we could put like FanDuel odds on first question? I feel like first question that I'd lay money down on would be, why Dallas over going back to Golden State.
Yeah, but we already did that one.
I know, but it's
at that press conference.
I know, but like that thing is that presser is in the past now. Now it's media day. He's gonna get. I mean, think of all those questions. He's gonna get to ask almost all of them.
Yeah, the same ones again.
So that's just there's new people there. There are Cowboys people there. You know all the stuff. So he's gonna get asked that. So that's gonna
there's Cowboys people there is such a funny sentence out of context. Just imagine people.
I mean, it is. I mean, things are so much
horses.
Listen, we joke all the time, or at least some of us do in Mavs media. You know when the Cowboy season's over.
Yeah.
Because then the media, I wouldn't say doubles, but then you see the rest of the, the rest of the media starts showing up because they've been covering the Cowboys all year, and Cowboys, whether you like it or not as a Mavs fan, is just way more popular than the Mavs.
They're America's team.
And, gets first come, first serve for the most part with media people. So
couple of questions we have for Klay. I want to know what he learned from the 2011 finals documentary, because we saw recently on Klay's Instagram, he posted a story that he had watched the 2011 NBA finals documentary, like the hour long or hour and a half long documentary. I'm curious what he learned from that, because he was in the league at that point.
Yeah, I would like to hear what he says about that. That'd be fun.
What's the question? Give me a question you had.
Wait, I thought you were going to list some of the questions that we had.
Okay, I'll give you. So you want to know what, do you think people say you're not the same player pre-injuries? Like, what do you, like, how do you expect him to answer a question like that?
Yeah, for him, I just wonder if he would be like, yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I'm not the same player defensively, laterally, I can't move the same way. Does he say that? Does he not? Like, does he say, yeah, no, I'm not. Like, I feel like the answer I would give would be like, no, I'm not the same player. Who would be? Like, we're talking about the Achilles and ACL. Like, I'm definitely not the same player, but don't leave me open. I'm still one of the best shooters.
Still can't leave me open.
Yeah. So like, I think there's stuff like that. And that's the route that I would take. And I think he would take.
Yeah, does he know his limitations now, or does he accept them? Because I feel like part of the frustration in Golden State, when we talked to Kylan and Chuck from Locked On Warriors separately, they both separately said Klay's limitations on himself. He felt like he wasn't the same player, and so he got frustrated in his own game, in his own play, and that's what caused a lot of the Warriors stuff. It wasn't even necessarily outside forces. Yes, some of it was the contract stuff and him frustrated with the front office and all that, but on the court, his frustration with his own play is what caused some of the issues last season. And so what does he learn from that? How has he learned his own limitations? And asking the question about his injuries and what kind of player he is before and after is pretty apt on that. I also want to know, just as a person that lives in DFW, in Dallas-Fort Worth, I know that there are fans that are worried that he loves water, lakes, oceans, things like that. I don't know if you guys if all of you have been here. We don't have that much water. There are some lakes. There are some places.
We have some lakes. I mean,
there are some lakes.
Have you seen the Trinity lately?
They're out there. I'm curious if he's found any alternatives. I did see him post like an electric bike recently, so maybe he's biking more. But I'm curious. People are worried that he's not going to like it here because there's no water.
There's a couple lakes that are decent size. He could get out on with a boat and have some fun with.
Every time I fly into DFW, you see that huge lake, and you're like, "Oh, I keep forgetting that's there."
Ray Hubbard, that's a good one.
It's up there though.
I'd like to hear about his dog,
Rocco.
I want to hear more about Rocco and the transition for him. How tough that's been.
Well, we've also heard a little bit about Kyrie's pitch to him, but.
So yeah, well, I know we're close to one of the things I'd like to talk to Kyrie and ask Kyrie and Klay, but it's mainly a Kyrie question of what was your pitch to Klay, and like why have we had back-to-back summers now where we've gotten Kyrie Irving and Klay Thompson for the most part. Kyrie came a little bit before that summer, but it's like why after all these years feels like that narrative around Dallas. And I feel like we know the answer. He's going to talk about the relationships of Nico and Jason Kidd and all of that. Yeah. But just to hear it again, because we had to sit through that as fans for so long, of like Dallas not having a seat at the table, and now we do for some of these.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
For some of these players, and now we've seen these two big names come to Dallas, whether it's trade or signing trade. They both wanted to be here. That's the main point of that. It's just it's different, right? Like it's different. We're not used to that.
Tell me you want to be here.
I mean, come on. I'm watching Dancing with the Stars right now with my wife, and the season, and it has Dwight Howard on it. So I'm like, oh, remember those days.
Listen, the Mavs got Klay Thompson. They didn't have to make one cartoon or a comic book about Klay Thompson to get
That's very true.
They had to for Dwight Howard, and they still didn't get him. Coming up, what are the things we want to learn at Media Day? I got a couple things. One of them about Kyrie that we kind of forget about. I do want to know something about Kyrie. We'll talk about that and more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Game Time. Game Time, great place if you want to go do things. Doing things is fun. Hey, it still is. Go do stuff. Comedy, sports, concert, theater. The Mavs are starting up again. We just talked about how we're back. We're back. Well, the Mavs are back as well. You can go, and right now, they have Mavs tickets on Game Time right now. I've seen a bunch of them on there. And so you can go and see what is available for you. Mavs, Golden State Warriors at Mavs. This is in February. I don't know why this is the first one on the Game Time picks. This is a game in February. You can go right now and see what's available on Game Time. They have all kinds of great stuff. You can do all-in pricing. I'm on the website right now. Hit all-in pricing, and boom, I see exactly what I'm going to pay up front. You got to love that. They're not throwing the fees in afterwards and all that. They have all kinds of other things that you can go see too. Eagles at Cowboys they have Usher tickets. You want to go see Usher?
I am.
You are going to go see Usher?
Yeah, I am.
There you go. You can go get tickets on Game Time if you want to go stalk Isaac and go watch Usher at the same time as him. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Isaac, what time is it?
Game Time!
It's great. It's great, dude. Dude, it's great. It's great. It's great, broski. Bro, name it. It's great. It's great. It's great, bro. It's great. It's great. It's great. This life's great, bro. I have no complaints. I don't.
Bro, name it.
Bro, name it. I love that one. All right, Isaac, we're talking about what we want to know at Media Day. The biggest storylines around Media Day. And I should have done this drop, but I just want to do it one more time.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is, huh? Anybody?
It's Media Day. One of the things I want to know about Kyrie Irving, I want to know an update on his hand. He had surgery in July. He should be cleared for training camp, but we haven't really heard a lot about it. He heard from Kyrie himself that it's a much needed break, that he's kind of getting pushed to the side and pushed to rest a little bit. And so I'm curious about his hand and the update on that. Hands usually aren't that big of a deal. It's not the same as like a soft tissue injury or a knee or an ankle or anything like that. But I am curious about that because that is sort of the one like lingering injury, maybe Luka's, that we have on this team right now.
Yeah, I mean, I figured that would be the first question asked to Kyrie. Just like,
right.
Hey, where are you at? You cleared? How's the hand? And hopefully it's all good in the past.
And hopefully Kyrie answers that question by saying,
It's great. It's great, dude. Dude, it's great. It's great. It's great, broski. Bro, name it. It's great. It's great.
That's what I hope he says about it. But he should be cleared, and so we'll see. We don't 100% know if he was at the California runs, or if he was playing, or if what he's been limited to, or what he's done this season. Well, we know he's there, but we don't know how much he was playing or anything like that. And so I am curious about that. Anything that you wanted to learn in Media Day?
Yeah, there's a couple things. I know this is like far down the list for most people. I want to know about Omax's off season. I just want to know what it consisted of. What did the summer consist of? I know he went to some Wings games, and that's about it.
That's true. I was at some of those. For those of you that may not have listened to this podcast for a long time, Isaac always in the draft, he always picks one player that he just falls in love with. And one year it was Donovan Mitchell, great call. One year is OG Anunoby, great call. There's been a bunch of them like that. And then the year that the Mavs drafted Omax, it was Omax. And you really just loved Omax. Not as like a top 15, top 10 guy, but just loved him as a late in the first round type guy that could come in and do a lot of things. And so your love of Omax has been well documented on this show. So
I do, yeah. I really like Omax. Still holding out hope and everything. I'm definitely not. You're selling stock in Omax. Hit me up. I'm buying.
Oh, buying Omax.
But I do want to know. I mean, I joked about him changing his number. He did do that. He went from 18 to 8. But I just want to hear about the off season. I want to hear what he worked on. Is it what does he feel? How does he feel like he's a different player in his sophomore season compared to that rookie season and all of that? So he's like one of the players. He's probably the main player, right? I'm trying to like think right now. Maybe Jaden Hardy. That if you could just say, hey, they take the biggest leap this offseason from point A to point B, like it would mean the most for this team, or like realistically, maybe like a PJ. I don't know. So yeah,
I did an episode on that, and I came away thinking it was Lively. I think if Lively makes a leap, it becomes
he's already so good.
But if he becomes a defensive player of the year candidate, then all of a sudden, I mean, that changes this team.
My next thing was about Lively. Is it improving or adding right now? Are you working on improving everything that you're good at to make them beyond great, or are you adding? Why are you laughing?
Oh, because did you read my first question to him that I wrote down?
I did not.
We shooting threes this year? That's my first question to him. As soon as he sits down, I'm going to ask him that.
Or are you adding a 3-pointer? Are you adding running the pick and roll? I don't. Yeah, so that's what I want to see. What his mindset has been, because most people, it's like, hey, what do you want to improve on this offseason? Everything. It's like, all right, well, which one of these two? I kind of want to single it down a little bit.
Yeah. For Lively, that's good. I also want to know from him, what's the best thing about an NBA offseason? This is the first one, and he went to a bunch of different places. We saw him everywhere. I mean, he was all over the place.
He did.
At different stuff. One thing that I want to know at Media Day, and this is pure just reading the tea leaves, reading through the lines, just trying to read into as much as possible. I want to know if there's any hint of where players stand in the pecking order. Sometimes you hear stuff from Jason Kidd or Nico Harrison about where they think about players and what they think about where they are.
Pecking order of like what?
Minutes, rotation. If they see anything, like, we don't know for sure if Lively's starting over Gafford, or if they think that Lively should play more than Gafford, right? We all assume this.
Remember when we asked Christian Wood?
That's what I'm talking about. That happened 2 years ago.
And we're like,
Christian Wood thought that he was going to start and thought he was going to be like a main player. And the Mavs were like, no, we think you're a sixth man. And we asked him, hey, Christian Wood, how do you feel about coming off the bench? And he had no idea that he thought that he was coming off the bench.
Awkward moment for us. Yeah.
Very.
That's
which
great.
Became worse throughout the year.
Great decision for the Mavs.
But I want to know if Lively's for sure starting, if the Gafford versus Lively, if it's as clear cut to the Mavericks as it is to us. I want to know anything about Dinwiddie. Do they really see him as the sixth man, the spot starter, the way that we heard the Tim McMahon reports about it? What about Grimes? What about Hardy versus Exum? I want to know anything we can learn about anything like that.
Will Dinwiddie admit that he was wrong for his decision last year?
Well, you read my first question to Dinwiddie when he sits down.
Who admits they're wrong first, Dinwiddie or Vlade?
Dinwiddie sits down. I'm going to say, let's set the record straight. Are you happy to be home with Mama now?
I just want to know. I want to hear him explain the quote.
Yeah. That's one thing that we care about. I don't know. I think a general Mavs fan probably has no idea he said that. But the terminally online ones do, and we love those.
It's such an odd quote that I would like to hear about it.
But it's not out of the normal for Dinwiddie at all.
I'm excited to see some personalities. Just up close. Najee Marshall. It's always great to meet new guys, right? That's always fun every year. Meeting Najee Marshall, Quentin Grimes, and some of these guys. Klay,
we got the Hardy laugh a couple years ago at Media Day, and it was pretty awesome.
Oh, it was gold. I've asked Klay a few questions as he's came through Dallas for random things, but now he's on the team, so official meet and all of that. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, that's always fun.
I think it was our friend Andy Bailey on Twitter that said, what's something you remember about your team's Media Day in the past? Because I think some of these just come and go and you forget stuff, but You know that one of the greatest Mavs quotes of this show's history came from Media Day, came from one of our interviews.
I do. I know which one you're going to say.
People forget about Frank.
That
Your little hum at the end is my favorite part of that.
I feel like that took a life of its own. And like people don't even, I feel like if you put like ask on Twitter right now, like, hey, where did that come from about Frank? I bet there's a lot of people just wouldn't even know. Like, I don't know. I've just seen it on Twitter.
Yeah.
And that was when asking Nico about the guard rotation
ball handler.
and all of that. And the third ball handler. And hey, people forget about Frank.
People forget about Frank.
Just great times.
There you go. Let us know in the comment section, what question would you ask to a Mavericks player? And be back. Follow, subscribe. We'll have a bunch of interviews, hopefully. And we'll see what we get from guys. So, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Be back. Subscribe to become Locked On Mavs Insider by getting text messages straight to your phone. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.